Thank you, everyone. TEDxFUTO. TEDxFUTO. I hope I can hear you. I think I'm better off with the mic.
I'm so excited to be here. Yeah, this sounds better. I'm so excited to be here. Tense and nervous at the same time. Quite a number of people, and I think this says a lot about you guys personally. It says a lot about your quest for knowledge, says a lot about your quest for self-development, which is basically what TEDx is all about. And because of that, I want you to give a round of applause for yourselves. It's impressive to see young people. And okay, kirikana wanukose. So yeah, in 2017 or not 2014, I was a medical student in Nnamdi Azikiwe University, and my day basically consisted of, going to the clinics, going to lectures, and coming back home to read and prepare for exams. But a particular event, or rather a particular person, birthed who you're seeing today. And I still remember that afternoon vividly. So we came to the clinic, and there's usually something that's required of medical students. So it's called clerking. So we get a patient and then we talk to them. And in talking to them, we discover information about them that could help us diagnose what they're suffering from and how we can best help them. Because disease basically has some risk factors. Some diseases have some risk factors. And there was this 60-something-year-old man who walked in with his son and already had a stroke on the left part of his body. And while I was done taking my information from him, presented it to my senior registrar, who ended up, telling him about how to prevent the next stroke. And a year and a half later, we were back again, but this time we're preparing for our final exams. And while I visited the wards, here was this man again. This time he wasn't in the clinic, this time he was in the ward, and he had another stroke. Unfortunately, he did not make it. And that event birthed questions in my mind. One of the first questions it birthed was, did he not understand how important hypertension is? But I was there when the senior registrar was talking to him, telling him about the importance of taking care of himself. Didn't he have people around him? Why did it turn out this way? And out of that event, out of that incident, I decided to dedicate myself to ensuring that every person in Africa, starting from Nigeria, especially young people, would have a role to play in their health. Because the future of healthcare is moving from when your health is completely in the doctor's hands to when your health is in your hands. In other words, when you have decisions that you make to better your own health. In other words, you are now an active role player in your own health. I'm going to ask a question. How many of us own smartwatches? How many of us want to own smartwatches? Unfortunately, some of the reasons why some people want to own smartwatches is simply because of the aesthetic feel, especially iWatches. It looks cool, right? But what you don't realize is that particular device on your wrist can go a long way to ensuring that you lead a healthy life. From measuring your SpO2, which is basically how much oxygen is in your blood, to measuring your heart rate, to knowing how stressed you are at every particular point in time, to encouraging you to lead a healthy lifestyle. What are they doing? This is basically your health in your own hands, and you are involved in taking decisions about your own health. Young people, you and I like to still believe I'm young. Young people like to believe that we have our whole life ahead of us, right? There's still time. But what we do not realize is every action you make every day either adds to your health or takes away from it. This goes to show that our actions invariably affect our health in some way possible. What you eat either adds to your health or takes away from it. How many of you know that? Oh, you're aware. What you do either adds to your health or takes away from it. And so at the end of this speech, one of the things I want you to do is go home, take a piece of paper, and write down, what actions am I taking to improve my health on one column? And on the next column, what actions am I currently taking that are destroying my health on the next column? When you write all these things down, I want you to pick one action out of each column and do it every week. And so you pick one action. You could probably say, walk 10,000 steps daily, or don't sit longer than 2 hours. And ensure that you do these things every day for the next 1 week. After that week, you can go and pick the next one. And that is because a whole lot of our behaviors and actions are born out of things we think we know or things we believe. And I'm going to start from our sex life. How many of you believe 2 condoms are better than 1? Oh yes, we're going to talk about sex because this is young people. 2 condoms are better than 1. Show of hands. I know that even if you're not raising your hand, you believe it. So let's assume that for the sake of argument, you did not raise your hand because you don't want to be seen as someone who believes 2 condoms are better than 1. But many people believe that 2 condoms are what? Better than 1. It's false. 2 condoms are worse than 1. As a matter of fact, when you use 2 condoms at the same time, which many people do, including people in this hall, you know yourselves. No, this is a safe space. This is a safe space. Nobody's going to judge you. And when you do that, what happens is there is increased friction between these 2 rubbers, which increases the risk of one of them tearing and exposes you either to an unplanned pregnancy or STIs, right? How many of you believe that how many of you believe that whenever you have malaria, something pops up on your lip here? And that's a sign of malaria. Many people. I know that even if you're not raising your hand, you believe it too. That is not malaria. I'm sure you know that by now. That is herpes. Yes. And herpes is divided into 2. So there's the herpes type 1 and there's the herpes type 2. Most people have the type 1. But that is not malaria. That's herpes. Some people get it when they're kids. Some people get it when they become sexually active and kissing, sharing spoons, exchange of sexual fluids. We all know that. And they believe this is malaria, so they don't see it as it could be sexually transmitted. Oh, what's that on your lip? It comes up every time I have malaria. And so I have malaria. And they go for treatment. And in all honesty, they could be right. Here's why. When you contact herpes for the first time, it goes into the nerve cells under your skin and lays dormant for years. As a matter of fact, currently, as of this TED Talk, there is no treatment, there's no cure. There's treatment, there's no cure for herpes, both type 1 and type 2. When people, so when you get infected, it gets into your nerve cells and lays dormant for years. When you undergo any form of stress, be it you're ill, you have a common cold, you've got the malaria, exams are around the corner, you haven't eaten well for a couple of days, they pop up, right? How many of you? Oh, I said it's an STD and nobody wants to raise their hands anymore. Yeah, and so when your body undergoes any form of stress, it comes up again, and many people attribute it to having malaria. Now, when it's well managed, it is not life-threatening in any way, except in some people. And that is why it is advised not to kiss babies on their faces. How many of you know that you're not supposed to kiss babies on their faces? Yes. Now, the reason you're not supposed to kiss a baby on its face is simply because when you have a baby, the baby's immune system is not properly developed. And because it's not properly developed, they cannot fight the infection as well as you can, as well as your body can. And there is the case of a woman who came to visit her friend's baby in the hospital. And oh, cute baby, round eyes, very little cute nose, small mouth. Babies are kissable. You just want to kiss them. And she kissed this baby, and the baby ended up developing a brain infection. Why? Because this woman had herpes that was visible as of the time of the contact with this baby. And so in order to keep all babies safe, we said, do not kiss babies at all. We know that now, right? Health myths. Another health myth among young adults, especially in Nigeria, currently that's becoming a pandemic, is shisha is not harmful. But how did you expect me to come up here and not talk about shisha? That's out of character. And so, one of the beliefs that young people have is simply because shisha is not harmful. The reason they believe this is simply because when you smell shisha, you're either smelling banana, or you're smelling oranges, or you're smelling strawberries, you're smelling something that smells really nice. And in your head, because our brains are not so smart, we think if something smells this nice, it shouldn't be what? Harmful. Well, unfortunately for you, every session of shisha, which lasts about an hour, is almost the same thing as smoking 100 cigarettes. So just imagine taking how many packs of cigarettes, sitting down and lighting it. Exactly. Now, imagine the amount of smoke that goes through your body as a young person. One time, maybe you will be fine. Maybe not. We can't tell these things. But then, when you build a lifestyle of these things, what happens after? Cancer, lung diseases. Some people even get herpes. But, now they've changed and started to switch the mouthpieces on shishas. Shisha contains the same gas that is contained in your generators when your generators emit smoke. Yes, and that gas is carbon monoxide. It is, you can't smell it. But imagine locking yourself in a room with a generator on. What do you think is going to happen to you? You're going to die. Why? Because when carbon monoxide binds to your red blood cells, so carbon monoxide and red blood cells have a toxic relationship. And this toxic relationship, have you ever dated someone who decided they were never going to let you go despite you saying, I'm done with this relationship? That's what carbon monoxide does to red blood cells. And so it holds on to red blood cells and say, you know what? Me and you, we are going to die here. Because I got the black man blood in me. And when carbon monoxide cannot let go of your red blood cells cannot pick up oxygen, right? When they can't pick up oxygen, what happens? The person suffocates to death. And so, when we talk about health myths, a young adult, especially in Africa, a lot of it has to do with our habits as a people. Show of hands, how many of you have someone in your family that has hypertension? You know someone, you've heard of someone, there's someone in your family that has hypertension. Quite a number of people. How many of you know that just by the fact that there's someone in your family with hypertension, you're at risk of developing hypertension too? A number of people. You know this, right? How then do you go and buy things from the market buy things from the store, buy snacks from the store, and do not bother to look at the back of the container to see just how much sodium it has. How many of you have given excuses for not exercising? Oh, I'm too tired. Oh, I'm too stressed. Oh, there's exams. And there's this. And they are very valid excuses. Oh, now you see how everything is tied together. Because when you don't exercise, when you take a lot of sodium, what happens to your blood pressure? Spikes. And just like that, a young person has hypertension. There are now younger people, especially within the ages of 25 to 30, who have hypertension. Some of them are stressed. Some of them take energy drinks on a daily. You're young people. And I'm going to leave you with this. Every action you take either adds or subtracts to your health. Your health is in your hands. Thank you.